everyone, and welcome to New Earth Conversations. I'm Elizabeth Wood, and I get the amazing pleasure to interview Jordan Sather today, a young man who I started watching on YouTube and was just blown away by his authenticity, his genuine energy. I'm just really thrilled about this particular conversation because here's a person who is still, both Jordan and I are somewhat a little bit of an age gap, but we both are still not even quite middle age yet. Jordan is very young and still has this huge amount of energy and knowledge and wisdom pouring through. I'm so excited to tap into some of that today for you. And the best part is going to be questions and answers, so I love that part too. A little bit about myself. I'm a seer and a scientist. I have a background in anthropology. I'm a futurist. I used to do futurism and anthropological predictive models. I got into quantum physics. I got into healing modalities. I've been studying Ayurveda and Eastern medicine of all types for many, many years. And I do work healing people. I do counseling and spiritual counseling as well. So that's my background, but I'm always keeping my fingers on the pulse of our global consciousness. Now we have finally reached full-blown global consciousness, and what that means is that all of us right now can actually imagine one another, where we're at in the world. And it didn't used to be like that. Most of the time before, humans didn't have the kind of internet connection. It was really difficult for them to be able to consciously connect to any other humans around the globe. But now we have this full-on global consciousness, and it's starting to affect our individual lives. So the macro is affecting the micro. And you yourself can affect global consciousness, so as you heal, you can heal the world. And that's the basic idea for these New Earth Conversations, is for us to unwrap what's going on right now on the planet. And Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today. Would you like to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, completely. Just for my backstory, because that's what everybody asks for, this 26-year-old kid on YouTube, how the heck did you get to where you are? You must be CIA. I just simply am curious, and I've been researching for quite a few years now, probably 6 to 7 years. And people assume just because you're young, you must be unwise or not, haven't experienced the world quite yet. But I've experienced and spent quite a bit of time researching over the last 6 years. I actually dropped out of college when I was 19 or 20 because intuitively it just didn't fit right for me. And then, at the time I didn't realize it, but I spent a lot more time partying and doing other things in actual college. So I guess my intuition just brought me out of that. But so I dropped out of college, and once I dropped out of college, I went to specifically work at a health food store, and it was a local health food store here in the Northwest. When I was there, they were very well-connected, very conscious health food store. And within a few months there, I was really learning what fluoride, vaccines, GMO foods, suppressed cures for cancer, and everything of the sort, and how the whole healthcare system works. So that was my first foray into, what reality is. And that was the beginning of my awakening process, you could say. And that's where, within just a few months, I was researching every single thing I could. I quickly went into the banking system and the bloodline families and the occult and free energy and just everything I could, everything that was held back from us. And that's the reason I dropped out of college. I was like, wow, I need to learn all this. So I was in business, in the health food store business, and just researching everything at the same time, and ended up parting ways with that company, had a couple other odd jobs, working in a chiropractic clinic and a gym and whatnot. But again, my intuition just drove me to need to share these other things that I was finding, and that's kind of what the YouTube channel and the internet is absolutely amazing. It's what helped me stem what I'm doing now and get my voice out there for everything else I've been finding. So not only am I still very active in sharing health understanding and health knowledge, but everything else in regards to disclosure, what's really going on with politics and the technologies that are out there and the things that have been hidden from us. So that's where I've gone.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
we need you.
We need a lot more of me. Not me. We need people to be
10
themselves.
Jordans out there.
And
it's happening. It's happening. So one of the things that I'm really interested in is this very slow dissolution of what I call the matrix of control. Yeah. And I believe that this matrix is very much a physical thing, but it's also part of the general programming that's happened to humans over millennia, and that what really keeps people bound to this matrix of control is two things. One, that they don't realize that they're actually in energetic bondage, that their pain and suffering is being fed upon, and that the one thing, the linchpin that keeps them bound to this matrix is worthlessness. And when individuals overcome the sense of worthlessness and begin to work towards having a mindset that is more one with everything, and it doesn't have to be a huge dramatic thing. It can be a very subtle, gentle thing. But once they drop the worthlessness programming, they can become more free, and they find themselves much happier and more synchronicity with what they really want to bring to the world. Since this solstice, I've seen, from a seer's point of view, a global shift. The sun is just going crazy over the past several years and helping the Earth's resonance move upwards and upwards. On a galactic level, from a cosmological perspective, the galaxy, the whole entire galaxy we're in, the Milky Way, is moving through this big, huge cloud of energy, and we've hit a gap, which is actually causing a huge amount of climate change, the resonance of the Earth to move upwards to skyrocketing levels, and the sun going nuts. So it's causing all these different things. These are real physical, 3D, measurable, scientific things that we can look at. But what are some of the other ways that you've kind of seen the way the matrix is starting to fall apart, and why do you think that might be?
Well, simply because of the whole galactic shift that you just described, and that's exactly what's going on, is that, as our galaxy spins, different quantum shifts occur, and what's actually going on in our solar system right now, it's dying. It's not only is Earth's magnetic field getting extremely weak, but the sun is hitting a minimum that they've never seen before. So it's not necessarily getting more powerful. Everything's just getting a lot more sensitive. You see?
Yeah, there's a good way to say it, for sure.
So everything's almost like quieting and getting extremely sensitive. So when that galactic central sun pops off, its energetic burst that we're expecting, what I see is that, as people say, it'll go through the cosmic web, and then our sun, will have a certain quantum leap, quantum shift it'll go through, and it will pop off an extremely large thing. And our solar system is already so sensitive that it'll shift everything.
Yeah. And on a practical level, these shifts are individually felt. People get really tired. They feel overwhelmed. I get people often complaining. My clients will come and have sessions with me, and I do medical intuitive remote viewing. And what I'm doing is helping people really get down into their DNA. And human DNA is changing. It's shifting before our eyes. And it's really miraculous. And these are the things that the ancient people talked about. They knew all of this was coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
The new Mayan New Year's here. Happy New Year, everyone. And it's actually called the Yellow Galactic Crystal Seed New Year. And the ninth wave of consciousness from the Mayan perspective has hit us finally. And this ninth wave, basically what they say is the time where humans are really doing the make or break choice. And one of the things I always point out to people is that I will often see on Facebook folks say, "Oh, I hate the human race. We're just a bunch of losers, and we need to get
negative Nancy pants."
Yeah, negative Nancy.
Negative Nancy pants. And that's exactly like you say. It's now we have the choice to make it or break it, to build our most optimal timeline or to just give up. And that's what 2012 is all about. It's as if this shift occurring was just bringing the choice back to the collective consciousness. And every single person matters in that whole game, in the whole collective consciousness, because it all builds up. And what I see is, you're mentioning with the energies, on one hand, this expansion of consciousness and all these extra, cosmic energies transforming our DNA. If you make the choice to, if you're not living with your soul's true purpose, or if there's internal tension in your life, then you will be affected by these, what they call ascension symptoms. You'll get the headaches and the pains and feel weird and whatnot, depressed or angry. But if you're what I call riding the wave, if you're living a truly healthy lifestyle from not only your taking care of your physical body, physiological body, but your spiritual body as well, then I think these ascension energies are just going to activate you. They're going to completely bring you peace and joy, and you'll be able to use this life force, this chi, to your own advantage. You'll go down that enlightened path. So I think that's the choice we need to make, and understand that these ascension symptoms are simply us just being off balance. It's not something that happens to us. It's something that we're creating and manifesting.
Yeah, exactly. And so, one thing that's really important is not to isolate ourselves, to ask for help, for help when you need it. That's
totally.
what this is all about, because when you heal yourself, and I really want to nail this down for everyone, I want you to really hear this, how very important you are. We really, really need you. The whole human race needs you. The whole human race is very important. We have a chance, and Earth is precious, so very precious, which is why we've had so many different extraterrestrials interested in us for all the time we've been on planet Earth, over 300,000 years. We've had interdimensional beings and 3D extraterrestrials influencing us since the beginning. And so I kind of want to delve a little into that, too, because you can ask for help from these beings. You don't have to stay isolated. All of us have the angelic at our fingertips.
Totally. I just went to James Gilliland's ranch a few weeks ago. Did you ever go there? His ESETI ranch? When you were up there in Washington?
No, I haven't got to yet. Nope.
Oh man, it's in near Mount Adams. It's about a 3-4 hour drive from Olympia, probably. So I mean, it's a day. But his ESETI ranch, it was amazing being there because it's so energetically dense and intense that when we got there, they were like, if you need help, you ask, right? If these energies are too intense for you, it's okay, and that's awesome. It's awesome to have that support, and that's exactly what people need these days. They need support and the courage to delve into these topics and to, express themselves and not feel shut down if they do.
Yeah, that's right. And especially when you are working on dissolving your connection to the matrix through that worthlessness. When you are feeling the pain of worthlessness, it's especially important to ask for support then. And you have an admin team. Every human does. They have these angels that follow them around. And I love it because most people don't realize that they're not conscious of it because they don't see it. But as a seer, I can see it. So it's very, very precious to be able to connect to these beautiful beings. Even if you can't see them, just be aware that they're there. Angels are seventh-dimensional extraterrestrials who have had a vested interest in our sovereignty. And so their brethren who have hurt us, which a lot of us call demons, they have been warring against them for so long. But no matter what, we do have these powerful allies. There's other beings as well. There's of them have lots of different names.
Yeah, there's a lot of different races that are here. We have the It's been said we have the Pleiadians, the Orions, the Andromedans, and a lot of other races that are here to help us. And then we have obviously the negative ones that have infiltrated what's going on here for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, the different reptilians and the grays under them and whatnot. I have a connection to the Nordic beings. You know, I come from a Scandinavian family. I have the blue eyes, blonde hair. I live in a little Norwegian town. It's,
wow.
So that's the connection that I have, and that's one of the races that's helping humanity. My girlfriend had an interesting dream a few weeks ago where in her dream we were both laying in a bed and these blue human-like entities essentially came into the dream and brought our astral bodies away together, and then we were in this room essentially getting like a download from these beings. So that was in her dream, and so there's a lot of different things that are going on, you know, and as you progress spiritually, they'll begin to make contact with you, first through dreams most likely, and then maybe through physical contact with orbs or and eventually, you know, as you mature, their actual physical selves. So.
Yeah, that's right.
There are a lot. People don't want to believe that. You're being helped. It's just we have to do it ourselves, you know. Your children aren't going to grow if you beck at every, you know, do everything for them. These children, we are the spiritual children. We have to do it on our own. So they're helping us as much as they can without breaking free will.
Yeah, that's right. And doing some research and looking at all the different beings out there, seeing if you connect to any particular star family. The sessions I do with people all over the world, probably 95 to almost 100, nearly 100% of people have some kind of star family watching after them, which is really, really incredible. So I've been really honored to be able to chronicle the relationships people have built without really any extra help. Here's, you know, average people, stay-at-home moms, hardworking guys, you know, and they start to see stuff. They start to have more connections and more dreams. The dream world is so very important as they continue on their spiritual healing. And then they start to wonder, like, do I have more that's going on? And it's true. DNA has been deeply influenced, modified, played around with for so long. And now we realize just how long humans have really been here. When I was in college, they often told us that humans had only been here for about 100,000 years, and I used to kick and scream and say, it's not true, we've been here for over 300,000 years. They're like, no, we don't have any evidence of that. But just a couple of months ago, they found a skull, a human skull in Morocco, 300,000 years old. So there you go. California,
I think a month or two ago, they found extremely old human remains, and then there's plenty of things that science can't account for. They can't account for two fused chromosomes that we have, 46 chromosomes instead of normal chimpanzees 48, so why do we have less? And then why did the Human Genome Project only pick up 10,000 genes that regulate? I mean, how are you going to, they expected hundreds times more genes, but they only found so many, so it's like it's indisputable that there's a kind of morphic field or source field that our DNA resonates with, essentially sucks energy from, that builds our cells. Our bodies cannot account for everything that we're finding.
Yeah, we're basically, you know, on the very basic level, we are literally water memory. That's what your body is doing right now. It's water memory, and a good portion of the actual dry weight of your body isn't even you. It's bacteria. It's your soul, it's your spiritual will that's really creating this reality, and science is getting better and better at being able to express all of these things. Now we have Nassim Haramein, who's bringing unified theories into science finally, and really starting to point out all of the wonderful spiritual concepts that have been taught for so long are being expressed and discovered by science now.
That's the internet being so freaking amazing, is that these concepts they've been out for a while. Nassim's doing awesome work bringing the geometry into it. Lately I've been reading Walter Russell and his concepts, even in the 20s and 30s and 40s, of electricity and electromagnetism and what God and source is. So it's like, it's been around, probably kept in the Vatican basement, you know? But now because of the internet, it's coming out to us, and we're being able to see it and bring people on stage now like Nassim, and bringing all the ancient wisdom, like you said, it's all ancient wisdom back to humanity.
That's right. And we have really brave scientists who are starting to understand the importance of cymatics, the way that sound creates form, and how sound, light, and form are all related, how they help create one another. And recently, a couple years ago, there was some really awesome quantum physicists who discovered that if they applied geometric information, basically the golden ratio, to their really huge, horrible quantum physics equations that can run up to 20 pages long each, that it shortened all of their mathematics to a very beautiful point. And what if you go to Google, everyone, you can actually find this article, and what you want to type in is the jewel at the heart of quantum physics. What they discovered is this incredible jewelahedron, a jewelahedron at the heart of quantum physics. And it's a bit mind-blowing, but it also just points again to the power of the golden ratio in this universe, and how things are really being created. So this is what happens when the matrix dissolves, everyone, is that as you dissolve it, you get to delve into the true reality, and it's so precious and so exciting and so wonderful that every single day becomes much more exciting. There's a lot more bliss to be had as we continue to dissolve this matrix of control. And speaking of dissolving, we are watching the very slow, exciting dissolving of the elite, which is probably makes me more excited than anything. Can you speak a little bit about what's going on with that right now, Jordan?
It seems slow, but it is getting faster and faster and faster, and it's exponential, absolutely. Because I remember just 5 years ago when I was working at a health food store, even the mention of vaccines, fluoride, that upset some people. And I was in a hippy-dippy health food store, but now you mentioned simply vaccines, and there's a lot of people who are going to agree with you so much more than just 5 years ago. And now not that it's just a vaccine topic, but deeper, much deeper truths are hitting even the mainstream level, and they're trying as hard as they can to debunk it with things like Snopes and CNN and WAPO and their media organizations. But truths like the occult rituals, the occult practices of the elite, who the elite really are, the, quote, deep state now, and the technologies they're hiding from us, the skullduggery they're up to, and, everything is coming out. And what we're seeing, we have to, a lot of people, when they look at the world stage, the geopolitical stage, they're very, very negative. But again, your consciousness will manifest what you put out there. So if you're seeing negative will come to you. But I try to see it as positive as I can. And when I look at it positively, I see the elites running. I see humanity waking up faster and faster, and the control system's absolutely failing. We have Snopes that is basically begging for money because they have such big lawsuits against them. And we have CNN viewership at an all-time low. I mean, an example is the rising alternative media. So many little YouTube channels coming out of nowhere, people trying to piece together what's really going on and share the truth that they're finding. And it's amazing to see.
It's impressive. It's impressive to watch the true heart of humanity laid out and say, no, we don't believe you guys anymore. You're just the mouthpiece to corporations.
Exactly. And what I think people need to stop doing is getting attached to labels and names. So when I mean that, I think, President Trump. People hear Trump, it's completely polarized. Either you love him or hate him.
Right.
But don't focus on his face, focus on, the universe manifesting a win for humanity, however that form comes across. There's a lot of people behind Trump that are doing much, I don't want to say more important, but even deeper work than whatever he's doing, because there's a lot of stuff getting swept up behind the scenes. So he's just the talking face right now. I have zero idea what's truly going on. I just have my best speculations. But, it's a whole positive force. It's an alliance. It's that win coming for humanity against the evil dwellers.
Right, and their Achilles heel has been this child trafficking issue, and people are just starting to realize on a larger scale what's really going on with that it's not just sex trafficking, it's actually vampirism, and some really very strange, dark stuff. And here it's getting laid out. It's starting, there's nowhere to hide anymore. And this is very good. The rise of the dark masculine and the dark feminine coming up in our face is the key. If we can really start to heal those and understand the existential crisis that's going on in the minds of many people, then we can begin to heal and watch the face of the planet change. And it's the youth, it's young people who are coming up in the world saying, well, we've got a plastic problem in the ocean, so fine, I'm going to invent an amazing boat that goes around and collects it,
Yeah.
Or, we have a battery issue. Well, fine, I'm going to make a battery that runs off of pee. Or
just runs off of water, or runs off 0-point energy, or
Yep.
So and
I really like Tesla, so I'm going to do blank. And this is the youth. I would call them rebuilders. Yeah. They know that they're going to end up having to rebuild much of the systems we've created, which are not sustainable. I remember a while ago, towards about 2001, when the cradle-to-cradle concept came out, and how important that was to understand that in nature there's no waste, and how we needed to change our tune. And so that's something that you as individuals, folks, can do, is to think about how we can minimize our waste and the impact that we have in the world, but also really falling in love again with the earth, in this beautiful jewel in the universe. It's extraordinary, a wonderful, beautiful place, which is why we've had so much interest from other beings. And what if you could name off like a couple of things that the average person could do to help this whole process happen faster, to help the process of the matrix dissolving, and of course the process of uncovering and exposing the elite? What can the average person do to help these processes?
Absolutely. And what I'm going to bring into the picture here is a comment, a topic you were discussing just a couple minutes ago. It's a very deep topic, a very intense one, but it was the vampirism, essentially, of the occult elite. And a lot of people don't want to believe this. They don't even want to read about it or discuss it because it is so deep and dark. And I don't want to get too far into it here, but, I've talked to people whose fathers were 33rd degree Masons and very well-connected people, and it is an absolute reality. But the point I want to bring here home is that discussing it does not mean you're promoting it. A lot of people believe, with their New Age beliefs, that if you talk about negativity, then you're being negative. But in reality, ideas like that actually stemmed out of Stanford. This New Age movement stemmed out of the very people that are doing these bad practices. But talking about it is the most important thing you could do, because you're shining a light on it. And you talk, and it's so I think one of the most important thing people can do is understand that because you're talking about evil doesn't mean you're promoting it. You're shedding a light on it so we can understand it and get rid of it. And So don't be afraid to talk about it. Have the courage to discuss these things, and also be very detached. Also, because a lot of people, it's such nasty stuff that it will make you angry. Alien races using humans as food. That's very deep, but it will make you angry once you begin to accept it. But you must remain detached, because that anger, they're feeding off of it. That's exactly what they feed off of, that negativity. And also having that anger could also make people shy away from you, because you seem like you're being so negative that they're not going to want to listen to you. You have to ease people onto these subjects and understand that. I'm assuming our audience is already very well versed. So, but if you're talking,
I think a good portion of them are. Yes, absolutely.
But with
unconditional love. I point out, folks, detached, but objective is actually probably the more practical.
I like that better. Not necessarily detached.
Staying objective, everybody. And the way you do that is very straightforward, okay? You have 3 brains in your body. You have your brain, your heart, and your gut. They are all wonderful brains. They have different functions. But your heart creates that field, that electromagnetic field around your body. The way that you can continuously stay objective is by holding love. And you have to really look at these humans who are part of this elite. They were promised unconditional life. They were promised immortality. They were promised a lot of things, and they themselves are suffering beings. We need to see them as they truly are, as suffering, sick folks that need help. And many of them, most of them belong in jail. That's true. But we also need to recognize that these are fellow human beings. They are not better than us.
Yeah.
And if we hold love in the body, that's the best way you can stay objective.
Can I make a point to that there?
Yeah, go for it.
The forgiveness is the most crucial thing, and exactly like you're saying, if we hold love instead of anger, not only will we get a full disclosure and a quantum leap in consciousness sooner, but the forgiveness part of it will help it all break down sooner, because people who are scared to come out with their truths because they've done bad things, but they're sick of it and they want humanity free now. There's probably so many whistleblowers out there that have so much they want to say, but since they've been a part of bad things, they're scared to, because they don't want to be basically lynched. So if we practice forgiveness and just say, hey, even if you're an elite, you've been part of some secret societies or some bad clubs, or if you're, done bad things, but you want to change your tune now, you want to come out with your truths, and we will forgive you, because we're just going to get that freedom so much sooner. I don't even care about, I don't even care about it anymore. If they just came out and said, I'm sorry, but here's all the technologies we've been hiding from you. Here's your prosperity funds, and we're going to, be free from here. So
I agree. This is what true freedom looks like. And, I made friends with a man called Zachary King. He was probably one of the very highest, what he called high wizards in satanic atheism, and he was part of child trafficking. He was part of vampirism. He was part of all of it, and he was deeply involved and knew the names of all these elite folks and can point them out. He said a good portion of all of our 90s pop stars
wow.
And other folks, famous people he could point out by name. But he himself had an incredible story where he was able to find forgiveness, step away from his lifetime. I mean, he was in satanic high-level ritual for a very, very long time. And so, even he came through, and now he travels the world and helps all these different people all over the world overcome demonic oppression, and helps people understand the truth of all of these things, so that we can start to shine a light on it. He's a great example of someone
Wow.
who's very high up who has come out and has been able to, through forgiveness, help heal the harm that he had caused in the world.
That's awesome.
So it can
That's
happen,
fantastic.
folks. It can happen. Incredible person. His story is incredible. So speaking of all this full disclosure stuff,
Totally.
I really, really want to understand more of the technology, especially. And as a young person, I was always really interested in Tesla, and I knew that they had taken much of his work and hidden it from us and played around with it. But there's so much more to that story. It's incredible. We could do an entire show on just that.
Totally.
So you went to the MUFON conference. What does MUFON stand for?
MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network.
Okay, right on.
That's what their organization is. They had a symposium just this last weekend in Vegas that I went to, and it was entitled "The Case for a Secret Space Program," and was there for a few days, listening to a lot of great speakers, meeting a lot of people, and learning a whole lot of things. And the biggest thing that I learned is that a lot of people assume so much stuff without having the thinking they know the facts, thinking they know things about people, situations, just anything, and they don't. And I've not only seen that at MUFON, but everywhere lately. It's amazing is that people, they'll have such assumptiveness to them, and they're banking on information they don't verify. It's like, they're so concerned with their sensing of information that they don't take the time to bring it all down and bring it into their inner self and come to a certain kind of knowing of what's going on.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying there? And it's like, when you talk about the technology, I mentioned Walter Russell a little earlier. I've been reading a lot of his books lately, and he was dealing with the implosive forces with electricity and how it vortexes into a singularity, and you can tap that singularity. But he was, in his books, that's what he was saying, is that we rely so much on our senses, and our senses can deceive us. Our senses only bring in information. To come to an actual sense of knowing, you have to sit with yourself, sit with nature, and go to a quiet state of meditation and find, what's going on there. So
I think that's really important, and part of what I teach, Jordan, is how to use the heart mind and the gut mind. We're taught really only to use the brain mind, but the heart holds incredible detailed memory about your body memory.
It does.
And the gut holds this incredible intuition, and it's really you talking to the bacteria in your gut, so it's you talking to the earth. But both of those beautiful minds can lead us to the truth. And it's not just your brain mind, which is always so busy with past, present, future, which is so important to meditate, everybody. And I've often tell folks, the best things you can do for yourself is learn how to meditate and also learn an emotional processing technique so that when we are shining light on the frustrating facts of our reality, that we can emotionally process the anger and sadness that comes up so that it doesn't turn into despair or worse.
And when it comes to the truth, one thing I've also been reading lately is Deep Hermetic Wisdom, the Kabbalion, and one very important thing they note in there is that when it comes to truth, there's two kinds. There's absolute truth and relative truth. Absolute truth is that which is, you can't change it, but none of us being humans are going to have the absolute truth. Absolutely nobody has the absolute truth. No matter who you follow. We're all just humans with our own perspectives, our own relative truth. And we try to come as close as we can to absolute truth. That's the point being here, but you're not going to find it. So you can't assume that you know 100% of what's going on,
Yeah, like faces upon a jewel, we each are a facet of this whole truth.
I like that.
Yeah, or there's a really beautiful visual from ancient Hindu knowledge called the Web of Indra, which is that there's a web of life and each of us is like a bead of water on that, reflecting the whole universe. So we ourselves are literally like water memory reflecting the universe. And when you start to fall into that beauty, into that oneness, it creates a sense of bliss and a sense of joy. And so as we really learn all this stuff, that's what I want to offer people, that we don't need to just open up this information and then be mad about it, that there's the activity that you do to process how you feel about all this stuff is really the number one thing you can do to help the world.
Absolutely.
So I did see, Jordan, that there was one particular man who you had, you said that was super interesting, who was he sent by the Navy to talk about this space program at the MUFON conference?
William Tompkins.
Yeah, would you open up a little bit about what he was teaching everyone?
William Tompkins is a 94-year-old man now, and he is essentially has come forward with his story. He was in the Navy quite a few decades ago, but he's coming forward with his story now just to get the truth that he's able to share out there. And a lot of that deals with his early history and how he got involved with aerospace corporations and the Navy, and it's a fascinating story. He was a extremely good designer when he was a child, and he would build model ships of the ships that were in Long Beach Harbor.
Wow.
So he had a fascination with building models of these ships, but when he was really young, he was able to tour these ships, and since no cameras were allowed, he would make sketches of everything that was on them, and he would even make sketches of the classified stuff on there too. And he didn't know. He was just a little child, so he was making these model ships with classified parts on there that the public are supposed to know about yet, and he would have these models displayed on Hollywood Boulevard.
Wow.
And one day there was a couple of naval intelligence officers walking by, and they noticed the models. They're like, "How the heck? That's supposed to be secret." So they took his dad. They actually interrogated his dad for a couple of days, found out that it wasn't a Japanese spy. It was just a kid that was making these models, and they essentially groomed him to be in the Navy once, he got his schoolwork done. And then he has a very interesting story about what happened when he got into the Navy as well. And I'll summarize that shortly. But essentially, when he entered the Navy, he was acquainted with some people, one man named Admiral Ricobata. And Admiral Ricobata was stationed in Long Beach Harbor. Well, the Navy at that time had spies that were embedded in Germany in different corporations and around. And when they would come back, they would report to Admiral Ricobata as directed by the Secretary of the Navy at the time, James Forrestal. And it was Ricobata, and then William Tompkins was actually one of the ones that would help debrief these spies as well. And William Tompkins' job was to take all the information that they brought back from German Aerospace Corporation and disseminate that to American corporations. So here in 1941, we're getting actual anti-gravity research and a lot of this science, sometimes even manuals. And William Tompkins would take that to naval laboratories or to Caltech or to different, Douglas corporations and disseminate that. We've had flying saucer technology for decades, and various American corporations and companies have too.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point most of our listeners probably realize just how advanced the military really is.
Yeah, and we've talking about full disclosure, that's the whole there is so much stuff. We've had free energy for decades, and we've also had the science associated with it. It's just been locked away in these black projects. And
yeah. Which makes me wonder why, how someone like Elon Musk, who brings up an entire corporation and names it Tesla, makes it open source.
Kick me down.
Yeah, how is he related to all of this?
It's are you dumb or a douchebag? That's what are you dumb or a douchebag? And naming it Tesla, exactly. It's since the 40s, we had Victor Schauberger, And you mentioned the phi ratio earlier. That's exactly what it's based out of, because it's all based on, all this free energy technology is based on the idea of implosion and vortexing, and how the universe, when, even gravity itself, when it's vortex down to a singular point, that's what creates energy and matter. We're focused so much now on radiation, which is the opposite, which is explosive technology, which is trying to take a vacuum tube and propel it with rockets. And it's the absolute most destructive, worst idea that we're doing. We could, Victor Schauberger was finding out how to create energy and even anti-gravity properties through just circulating water in an implosion, vortex cycle in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, and then the monetization of failing technology. So basically, I think that Edison's original light bulbs are still burning. The fact that our light bulbs go out and our cars depreciate, and the law of destruction or entropy, that's become monetized, so much so that all of the things that we use in our lives or think that we need to use end up really becoming deeply destructive over and over again.
You can only monetize the destructive technologies, the explosive ones, because you're burning stuff up. You can regulate it. You can't regulate a technology that's creating anything.
Right. You can't regulate preservation.
Exactly.
You can't regulate the laws of preservation and creation. So you can't make as much money off of that. And every level of our lives, especially in America, we're facing this monetization of our lives, our health. And speaking of disclosure technology, not only energy but healing. The healing, the power of light to heal is unbelievable. Most of the people that I do sessions with, one of the things that they're missing out on is the ability to really spend some time in the beautiful sunlight in the morning or in the evening when the UVA rays and lots and lots of other extraordinary wavelengths of light can be well absorbed by the body to create deep healing on all levels, emotional, physical. We have more and more people starting to realize that it acts like a food in the body, and that we've been lied to about the power and importance of the sunlight for our health. There, at one point, I don't remember the man's name, turn of the century, a guy realized this because there was a young girl who had, in his little town, been burned, and terribly burned on her body, and 30% of her body was burned. So the parents knew that she would probably die. So he said, well, I've got some new ideas. Can I try them out? And they said, yes, please. And what he did is he used certain kinds of colored glass to create a certain wavelength of light upon her skin, which regenerated it so fast that she was able to heal within a month, and she was normal. And he realized that the power of light wavelength was very key in human healing. So he knew that there's all these different wavelengths. He didn't know about the ones we can't see, but he knew about the ones we could, the colored wavelengths. So he created a machine. He created this incredible machine, like several of them, like 5 or 6 of them. And these machines basically tuned into very specific wavelengths with certain colors of glass, and were able to help heal people. Skin cancer could disappear with certain wavelengths of green light. Burn victims could heal their skin with certain wavelengths of blue light. Depression could be healed with certain wavelengths of yellow light. And so he created these machines, and they were very simple, just light machines basically, but really, really specifically honed, colored light. Well, he was raided by the FBI and the CIA. All of the machines except 2 were destroyed, and he died penniless. But the 2 machines still exist. There's one of them I know about in the United States. However, the concepts are there, and the concepts are absolutely accessible, that the sun can heal you, and spending time in the wavelengths of the sun can create great health and long life. There's also cancer cures that are being kept from us. Thankfully, since the Internet's available, we can actually have access to many of these cures, but a lot of it is all very purposefully hidden away in order to create profit off of the disease of the people. What are some of the things that you know about when it comes to human health that need to be disclosed right now, Jordan?
Dr. Royal Rice technology sounds very similar to the vibrational therapy that you were just mentioning, and that's a man who I've been acquainted with for a few years now. I'm not acquainted with his research because he's dead, but he was another guy who, Dr. Rice created his pathogen-killing frequency machines in the mid-1900s. He was another run out of business by the FDA and persecuted. Dr. Gerson is a man who I've also studied deeply, and he was another doctor in the early to mid-1900s. He created a purely diet and juicing-based therapy for the healing of cancer and other degenerative diseases. So we have him. We have the oxidative therapies like fluoride, hydrogen peroxide, ozone therapy, and chlorine dioxide, or otherwise known as MMS. These are all heavily persecuted. I know a man here in Washington State who was thrown in jail for selling MMS, and these things are definitely hunted by the FDA. So there's a lot of healing therapies that are out there. The information has to be disclosed, but also, I am aware of various healing technologies that also exist in corporations that are waiting to come out to humanity. So the biggest thing that gets me excited and that helps me deal with the anger of all this stuff being suppressed for so long is what is out there just waiting to come to humanity once we all, collectively come to a maturity and a consciousness of it. So not only is there the 0-point free energy technologies, but these implosive forces can also, like you said, heal DNA. You can have your vibrational therapies or your pyramidal energies that can heal DNA, and there's so much out there. There's teleportation technologies, travel, energy, health. It's all waiting to come to us. But we need to seek it. That's the big thing. We need to seek it and get our friends and families to want to seek it as well.
That's right. Our individual voices create the collective voice. Mm-hmm. And so each of us, if we continue to speak about this, ask for it, research it, look for it, and not be afraid to do that, then we're really exponentially helping the whole globe. This is how the power of the individual is accentuated by your consistent work out there, folks. So
it's all absolutely like you. The term "you create your own reality" is so fitting, but all that means is if you put the intention out there and are open to doing the effort, to expending the effort or to doing the research or to have it come to you and doing the work for it, then shoot, do you want a cure for cancer? Well, they're out there. You just need to get off your butt and research it, right? Become familiar with it, and you can have that power right there. If creating a free energy device, it's absolutely doable. A lot of people can do it. It's just opening yourself up to that happening, that occurring in your life. But,
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So there you have it, everybody. Help create reality.
Exactly.
There was this experiment done, and you can actually see it on physics.org, I believe. And it's like the simplest experiment, but it just shows how vitally powerful vibration is. And so these guys, I think they were in California in their garage, and they had this big, huge plastic tube, and they filled it halfway up with glycerin water, so it's thick. And then they took a bubble tea straw and they cut it up into little pieces, equal-sized pieces, and then they glued them onto little pieces of paper and floated these little bubble tea straw boats in their little jet, or their big, huge tube. And then they sealed it, and then they put a simple computer speaker up next to the tube, and they only played, and get this, they only played 4 hertz. They didn't, the last jump of the Schumann resonance on the planet Earth went up to nearly 200. So from what they know, and that's only like one place on the planet they've been looking at. So it could be quite a lot more, even 2-3 times as much resonance. But 4 hertz. So they played 4 hertz, and these little boats, they all ended up perfectly aligning instantaneously with the exact same amount of space between one another. Now, what it shows, this experiment, so simple, is it shows that vibration organizes matter. So knowing that, with that knowledge, and that's really the very, very basis for what we're talking about, all this technology for healing, for energy, it's the very basis for all of it, that vibration organizes matter. That's cymatics, that your mind creates vibration. Your heart, your gut, your 3 minds, and your spiritual will in your body creates vibration. It absorbs vibration. So be conscious of how your body is organizing reality around you, how your body and your personal vibration creates reality around you, and how the reality feedback loop creates your health, how your health is affected by vibrations around you. So if they're really positive quality vibrations, then you're going to have better health. And I always encourage people, one of the simplest things you can do to help yourself every day is to listen to certain tones. We have the beautiful tone 432, and we have the tone 369. These 2 hertz tones, and you can go to you Google free tone generator, and you can listen to these tones in the background, even on your phone, and these actually reorganize matter. 432 is a very, very famous vibration that does heal. It heals. And it was well known by the Egyptians, and they actually tuned their buildings to 432. The obelisks out in Gaza and Cairo and all over the place are tuned. They're tuned to 432. They were transmitters for the specific healing energy. So this is ancient knowledge that you have access to right now, that you can utilize now. And we have the basic experiments to prove that sound reorganizes matter. So start reorganizing your matter and reach greater health. Speaking of healing, Jordan, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is healing the masculine. I feel that most men do not hear enough how they have been hurt by the patriarchy just as much as women. And that this is a very important step, especially in the United States, for men to take, is to really focus in on their own healing. And that men need support for that they need to know that people are looking out for them, like me, like you, that we actually really do care about healing the masculine. We have mainly male veterans coming back or who have been involved in our ongoing endless war, and these men are killing themselves exponentially. We have suicide rates in our masculine and the United States are unbelievably high. I see a despair. I see an existential starvation happening. And these are also men who are very angry about being marginalized. And it wasn't intended like that. It's just that suddenly becoming a white male now in the United States, because that was who helped create the patriarchy, and much of who is involved in the elite are the white masculine, then they ended up becoming demonized. And young men who didn't deserve to be demonized then started to embody that. And so you're looking at the rule, white masculine being the ones saying, we want a voice, and then they voted for Trump because they felt that that was the only way that they had any power. And sure enough, their voice had a lot of power. Either way. And so this is the importance, I think, is for these people to be acknowledged and to their humanity and their pain to be acknowledged. And healing the masculine, I think, on a global level, we're looking at radicalization of men. The radicalization of men created ISIS, which is mainly made of Westerners. And it's created a lot of other groups like the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and other such places because the marginalization and the oppression of men hasn't been acknowledged, if ever. So here we're at the point where this needs to be addressed. The dark masculine's up in our face, and it's being unveiled even deeper. And, of course, the relationship with the dark feminine as well. But you, Jordan, are an example of a light masculine, of a man who's with it, who is conscious. And I'd love it if you would speak a little bit about what that means to you, how you can share some of your wisdom about what it means to be balanced and full of light as a white male in our society right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a topic that I've been researching for, pretty in-depth lately, and especially the work of, Jungian psychoanalyst Carl Jung himself, but also Dr. Robert Moore, and how they describe describe how to heal the masculine, how the masculine is so imbalanced now, and the use of different archetypes to heal it with. And the problem is with the masculine now is essentially our childhood. We have such disconnected childhoods from both mother and father. Most of our fathers are what I call over-aggressive man children, in that they're very imbalanced themselves, and they think that aggression, particularly imbalanced aggression, is what it means to be a man, and that's not necessarily it. And then we have the women who are, unfortunately, just because of our wage slave system these days, it's forcing the woman to have to leave the home, and the little boys, they don't get the nurturing from their mothers anymore, from that feminine energy that's required to nurture them from birth to, late childhood. So really we have children that are disconnected from both their fathers and their mothers, and they're lost. And then, of course, the state comes in because they know best, and we can raise your child from there. Let's just vaccinate the crap out of them, and all will be well. So because of these children being so disconnected, they grow up and they never come into their full mature masculine. They always take the shadow forms of the archetypes that it takes to build it. So when I've been researching Dr. Robert Moore's work lately, his specific archetypes, everybody has their own archetypes they use to formulate their ideas. His specific ones are the king, warrior, magician, and lover. And you have them in especially a quatrain, you have them at 4 points of the square per se, or the cross. And in the middle is where they should all be balanced. You should have a balanced king energy, a balanced warrior energy, a balanced lover and magician energy. And most men take upon the shadow forms of these archetypes that because of their imbalance. So the king will essentially, if you take a shadow form of the king, you could either be a tyrant or a weakling. Those are the ways the king energy manifests. So we have a lot of men who are tyrants. Those are the over-aggressive ones. But we also have a lot of men that act as weaklings in certain situations. So it's really crucial to balance that archetype instead of take upon a shadow form. The warrior energy is another particular one that men have thrown off, and that the warrior manifests as either the masochist or the sadist. You have the person, if he's over-exuding too much warrior energy, they end up as the sadist, and they're harming everybody around them just for their own kind of ego benefit, ego joy. Then you have the men who don't have enough warrior energy in them, and they're the masochists. They're the ones that harm themselves because they can't take action. So those are just two examples of the king and the warrior. The lover is another one that a lot of males are thrown off in. We have the impotent lover and the addictive lover. Those are the two shadow forms. And the addictive lover is where most people, not just men, but most people in general, females as well, they're addicts. We have so many substances in this, world that they addict to because they don't have those connections in their lives to not. So, I live in Seattle, coffee, marijuana, two big ones here, people with alcohol and other hardcore drugs. They bring their addicted lover to, and then the magician as well. People, there's the magician archetype that manifests. So it's balancing all these four archetypes at each end, and that's how the man comes into his own. It comes into his balanced masculine energy rather than an imbalanced, whether it be the tyrant self or the addicted lover or the sadist warrior and whatnot. So it's extremely deep, and it's fascinating to not only learn but to talk about as well.
Yeah, so bringing to rest these dualities within ourselves, recognizing how we might be tyrants and how we might be weaklings or addictive lovers versus impotent lovers. And the work that my teacher, Lucia Renee, did, she wrote the book Unplugging the Patriarchy, and she also opened up the concepts of archetypes for women and how we can bring these things to rest. So it's very common, very similar. And the masculine archetypes have been lost in history. There used to be huge rituals done consistently to help form and help balance the masculine. It's not just women who were part of ritual. It was very important for men to be part of ritual.
Yeah,
and we don't have any of those anymore. Now you graduate, you even have a graduation ceremony for third grade nowadays. So when you graduate high school, it's like, I graduated high school.
Yeah, all the rituals are so superficial. It doesn't bring the deep esoteric wisdom into it. And really, the only deep esoteric rituals we have anymore are the ones that the bad people do in places of power. So it's like,
right.
And exactly what you just said is what Dr. Robert Moore outlines in his book, in that we don't have the sacred space and the rituals in early childhood anymore. And, because parents are so disconnected and parents are ignorant of spiritual laws themselves. So exactly what we have to do, bring rituals back in the picture.
Yes, and not the horrible kinds like circumcision, for example.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, too. A lot of the rituals parents do these days they're so unaware of the power of them. So, like circumcision and vaccination. And, the medical system right there, that's another example of how the children are disconnected from their parents, and that parents are sitting there with their arms crossed, like happy when the child just being born is being shot up and parts of himself are being cut off. And people think they don't have memories that young, but it absolutely traumatizes them, and it absolutely disconnects the family framework right there.
Yeah, and they've shown that those kinds of things actually create a different set point in the masculine brain for pain.
Yeah.
And
it's like my parents don't care about me.
Yep,
and it rewires them.
That's right, and the heart remembers. The heart is the seat of memory. The brain is actually terrible at dealing with memory. It's the heart that remembers. And the masculine heart gets shut down. And there's so many things that happen to young men that shut their hearts down when that's, in fact, their power center. And they're lied to. They're told that their genitals are their power center when their power center is really their heart.
Yeah.
And then they don't get taught how to transmit this extraordinary amount of love that they can move through their bodies into reality. And what used to happen was that men were taught how to transmit love into everything that they would create. So then you had the creation of extraordinary empires and cities and beautiful things, objects, craftsmanship, and all being basically created through love. And this was the ancient way of the men. But we don't have any of that anymore. Now we have young men like my 14-year-old son who are addicted to video games. They're addicted to screen time. They're addicted to it because it creates that same systematic, kind of a cocaine-like effect. And that's really, it keeps them away from creating reality.
And they're connecting to different worlds in video games. I was heavily into video games. I remember that, and it's because the family unit's so disconnected. The parents don't, it's the child like getting into the separate world there, and it's scary stuff, man.
So I want to. It's easy to talk about what's wrong, and I always like to bring it back to what can we do? What can we do to help? And what I've been showing folks is that learning about how to really talk to your heart, guys, really, really learn how to talk to your heart. It's a brain. All you have to do is literally put your hand on your heart and say hello and talk to it. Play with it. Ask it questions. See what happens when your heart says yes and what happens when it says no. Ask it obvious ones at first, so like, do you like blank or do you not like blank? And then see how it feels. Learn how your heart can talk to you. Another thing is really important is to learn how to consistently hold certain kinds of energies in the body to create protection. I find that when I'm doing sessions with men especially, they tend to wear a huge amount of armor. They wear armor. They wear spiritual armor. And it literally creates physical effects. Your arms and your shoulders get tired. You feel tired constantly. You're recycling your heart energy. So when you can remove the armor, with support most of the time men can do it, and when you remove the armor and then you fill up that whole field with certain kinds of energy like love, then you create a protective energy where your heart isn't vulnerable anymore. Instead, your heart gets unblinded. You get blinded by armor and by pain, because when somebody throws a bunch of negative stuff at you, like, for example, perhaps you think about your father or your mother and the lack of nurturing you received, and it hurts. It hurts in the heart. It's because those kinds of negative energies, they hit the heart first when the heart is not holding love. They hit the heart first, and then your brain reacts emotionally. It reacts with ego. So we end up with these reactive, angry men who don't know what to do with their anger and their pain. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to process it. So if the two things, again, there's two things that men can do right now to really heal, it's to learn how to meditate, learn how to really stop your brain mind and listen to your other minds, listen to what your gut is saying. It doesn't want Doritos. Your gut really, really wants those vegetables.
Absolutely.
And they got to be organic, folks. It doesn't want GMOs. Talk to your gut. Ask it. Shop with your gut. Learn how to ask your gut, what do you really want? And you'll be surprised. And then learning how to process your energy. So when stuff comes up, when it hurts, not to hold it, shove it down. See, when you shove it down, guys, it creates gaining weight. It creates cancer. It creates stomach ulcers. I can't tell you how many men I work with who have serious ulcers. It's because they're shoving this stuff down. They don't know how to let it go. They don't know how to let it through all the way. It really wants to move through. When you resist it, when you resist that pain, then it creates disease. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to vibration. Anger and despair create vibrational effects upon the body, which create disease. So you have control over that. You have control. And there's people to help you. You don't have to do it alone. So that's really so beautiful and important. Thank you for sharing these archetypes and how we might be able to look at them to balance them within ourselves.
And when it comes to men, the biggest thing that I could share is don't be scared of things that are labeled effeminate. I think that's the big issue, is that men, cultural programming has caused it such that a lot of things that are associated with rebuilding and growth and anabolism, which is the hormonal state of the body of repairing and rebuilding, are known as, quote, gay, end quote. Like a male going to get a massage. Oh, you're going to the spa, bro. Are you gay? Like, things like that. Meditation is often thought of as being a soft sort of practice, but those soft practices, being grounded in honoring the feminine energies with you, that's how you're going to rebuild not only your physical body but your spiritual body to go and handle different challenges. So the biggest thing the man can do to strengthen himself is to honor the quiet time, honor the feminine energies in him to help rebuild that masculine self and go attack what life has to offer.
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, totally.
And then there's this final piece I just want to add in until then we're going to get some questions, my favorite part.
Awesome.
But this final piece, what do you love? Ask yourself that. There was a study done recently on 2,000 different men, and their number one, when they were asked, what do you need more of in your life to make you happy, blah, 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 their number one answer, I don't know. I don't know. They didn't even know. They didn't know what they needed. Really sit down, guys, and spend some time looking at your life. What is it that you can create more in your life that will allow more light into your life? If it's writing music or what? Do you like to carve stuff? Perhaps it's very simple. Perhaps it's more complicated. What is it? Spend a little bit of time every day doing it or learning new things. Figure out what you love. Just really, really make that effort. If you don't know, then go find out. Be curious. Find lots of new things to get into. Maybe really getting your hands in the dirt, guys, is going to help you, and you just never spend any time doing that, but so you don't know that you love it.
Follow your bliss, as Dr. Joseph Campbell would say.
Precisely.
Follow your bliss, and that's it. That's what life is all about.
Yeah, and Campbell also pointed out that the way you know that you're in your bliss is when you feel light in your heart and in your gut. He knew that we had those two minds guiding us. So listen to them. Awesome. So precious. I really feel like there's a lot of men out there who need to hear this stuff, and that it's like food for the soul. Thanks for being light and masculine out there, Jordan.
Absolutely.
We need you. All right, everybody. Now we get open up for questions, and it can be to Jordan or me. It doesn't matter. And to ask a question on this conference, you can actually press *2 if you're live and you'd like to ask your live question that way. You can press *2 to raise your hand. And if you're on the webcast, you can type it into the Q&A board, and I will get it, and I'll be able to read it. And I'll read it out loud, and then we can try to answer it from there. So if you'd like to ask a live question on the webcast, you can type it in, or go ahead and press *2, and we're going to open up for questions. All right, so our first question is from Rolla, Missouri. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi.
I'm kind of surrounded by people who, I'm sure Elizabeth knows about this too, who don't believe any of this stuff. And the people that I'm associated with that are more awake are more into political activism and things like that. And I'm just thinking that, that's not the way to do it. I don't know. I don't see that it's not waking people up. It's making them resentful, and for instance, the climate thing is something I'm really wondering about, because everybody that I know who is, at all aware is, on the trip of how do I explain this? Of getting people to see that, humans have created this climate mess, and I'm not sure that it's all...
It's very guilt-ridden.
Yeah, it is. It's guilt-ridden, and it's... I don't know what to do. I don't know how I don't know how to be in that political activism thing and have any real effect.
And what I think is just you can make an effort to show people that compartmentalization of thinking is what's making us stuck. You see, when you bring in, politics is only one piece of the giant puzzle that's going on, and when people hyper-focus and compartmentalize their thinking on specific topics, then that's what kind of
and they all fight with each other on which is more important.
It's difficult to get an idea of what's really going on that way. But if you take a step back and go, okay, climate change is directly, it all connects to each other, whether it's a climate change issue or politics or disclosure or healthcare, or it's all kind of connected. And when you take a step back and be able to see the picture, well, then you can see, well, it makes sense that climate change would, there'd be so much propaganda associated with that issue because you understand the people that are putting out this information, and then you can, you can make a lot of more logical inferences and help people see, like, wow, it kind of makes sense that, climate change is a lie, and wow, the whole solar system's heating up. Wow, it's not just Earth. Like, a lot of things are going on, and when you show people that, most of them you can, begin to have dialogue with.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that, though, because I just get shouted down when I bring up they're not politically correct,
Yeah, exactly. And then that's always difficult. You can always lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it.
Yeah. I just, even my husband, who is, not, he doesn't swallow all the propaganda, but he certainly, he's very politically active.
Yeah. And that's what you can then do is try to find the best data you can and always have it on hand. So save it as a bookmark or in your phone or something like that, and then you can just show them, like, hey, message, not the messenger. Don't shout me down, shout this down. And that can, then they'll have a much tougher time doing that.
Yeah, it helps to have the right data. It does.
Yeah.
But when it comes to politics, Helen,
there is no right data.
Well, this is the first time I'm actually publicly going to say this, but I'm a pretty much straight-up anarchist. I really believe that localism is how humans actually live, that the concept of a nation-state or even a state is not, that's propaganda. Humans don't live at that level. They just don't. And the natural level that we really work at is localism. And so true anarchism from an academic sense is really just localism. It's like, all right, okay, so look, people, we're going to get mad about this nation-state thing when, in fact, most elections are just completely set up. And I think this past one, you can really see that. You can see just how set up the system really is. And it's just anywhere. It's not even just the United States. The U.S. thinks that everybody else thinks that everybody else knows what's going on here, and that's not true. But the fact is that these systems are very corrupted, especially when you get into the really big levels, like the WTO is a great example. The World Bank. These are hugely, deeply corrupted, massive control mechanisms. But the truth is that what you can do to help is really about localism, getting out there and starting to ask yourself, who are the people that I regularly interact with every day, or regularly in general? When I go to the store, do I see the same checkout people most of the time? Do I go to the same stores usually? Do I see the same lady making my coffee in the morning at Starbucks? Who are the people that I connect with every day? If there is a crisis, which it's coming, and it's really going to be big, when finally the United States banking system will fail, then the crisis means that you're going to have to ask yourself, who are your allies? Is it your neighbor? Do you even know your neighbor? That's a good question.
Very good question.
Yeah, so, who are your allies? Start creating allied groups, everybody. Start creating allied groups. These are the people that you're going to share food with. These are the people you're going to share resources with, and they're going to share with you, and you're going to share with them. When I was in college, one of the things I did, I was a single mom, and I worked really, really hard. And I knew I needed support. So I would go door to door to the people I knew who were also single parents, and I'd just pay attention. And I'd bring them a casserole or something, casserole and a bottle of wine, and I'd say, hey, I want to share food with you. I'd like to do a regular potluck. I'd like to share food every week, and I'd like to be able to share childcare. And you know, if you need me, call me. And then we created this really extremely wonderful and very powerful resource group of mostly single parents. It wasn't just single parents, and some people didn't even have kids. But everyone would get together once a week and share food, and it's incredible how much food you actually end up with. And this is why we have the word potluck in the first place. The natives did this all the time. And then we shared childcare, we shared help, and even years after I left that town, that group still continued to support each other. That's how powerful allied groups really are. And so when there is a crisis, folks, we need each other, and you need your local folks. You really, really need to go and get to know your neighbors. You need to ask them how they are and who they are. You need to be able to say, like, hey, if you need me for anything at all, I'm here, and to open yourself up to that, because when the crisis hits, when the grid fails, when the banking system fails, we're all going to really need each other on the local level. The state and the federal level is not the human mind. That's not how humans really work. So I think that's the number one thing you can do. And that's beyond politics. That's basic resources. And when those grocery stores are empty because the trucking systems all fail and the trains aren't working and blah, 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 we're going to need each other. So spend some time doing that now, like yesterday.
Oh, good point, yeah.
Yeah, and then politics end up becoming, well, like, you know, who's good at what?
Yeah.
Politics comes back down to the group saying, oh, you're really good at chopping wood, and, oh, you're really good at, watching children, and you're really good at teaching them, and you're over here doing blah, 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 and we need you. And that's actually what real politics ends up being like.
Yeah, and just look at the word politics. Politics, many blood-sucking parasites. Politics. So you understand that who cares what's going on at a national level? If you're not buying locally and organic, you're giving your energy to large corporations. If you're not spending your energy around you, your energy is going elsewhere to a greater whole that is not you. So yeah, it doesn't matter. So
don't worry too much about the divisions and the politics of your friends and whether they believe something or not. It's really more important that they know and that you know who you're going to be able to help and who is going to be able to help you.
Yeah, good point.
Awesome. Thank you, Helen. I so appreciate you coming on and asking such.
Well, I have millions
questions.
more, but I'm not going to ask them now. I'll give somebody else a chance.
Okay. All right. Okay, so our next question comes from Ethan. Hi, Ethan.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for putting this on, guys. I'm really grateful with both of you. Especially Jordan, I've just recently come into your channel, and it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Absolutely.
I just wanted to start off with a little question. I live in a city that has some of the subjects of the Pedogate scandal in it, and I've considered making some kind of documentary on the subject matter. Do you guys have any advice for when dealing with some of these really dark issues, if there's stuff you just stay away from for personal safety, or you say go all the way in, don't worry about it?
I would say, as long as you yourself is living from as heart-centered of a place you can be, and you just simply want to get the truth out there with no agenda behind it, attack, whatever your heart's content is, when you begin letting yourself be compromised by the dark forces, by negative beliefs, negative thoughts, that's when you want to, be very careful. But go to town, man. We need people discussing these issues, and we need people talking about them. But of course, be very careful with how you proceed. And but I would say go for it, man. If you're feeling called to spread a message about it, do it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ethan, I agree. I would add that, as you start to unwrap this stuff, you're going to see corruption, and you're going to see it at a very subtle level. And you may even be dealing with everything from military to police force to who knows. It could be really big. So first and foremost, follow your gut. If your gut says, "Dude, you need to get out of this situation right now," then walk away. Follow your gut. Your intuition wants to protect you, and it's not ego-based. So don't feel like, even if you're like in the middle of a conversation and you feel it down in your gut that you need to just get out of the situation, just say, all right, hey, look, I got to do a rain check. I have to run real quick, and we'll talk soon, or whatever. Also, just my sister's dealing with a lot of foster care children who 100% of them have been sex trafficked. And these systems, that these kids go through are deeply corrupted in supporting that. So when you are starting to unwrap some really big stuff, you're basically investigating. You're doing investigative reporting, especially with the documentary type thing. Be conscious that you may be opening up stories that are going to hurt. So stand in that powerful, unconditional love. Make sure you practice it really well before you start doing this. Make sure you know that you're going to be able to stay objective. And in the moment that you can't, don't resist it. Don't resist any of the pain that you're going to feel because of these horror stories that you're going to start discovering. Don't resist it. Just process it. Learn how to process that. Make sure you have those two skills set so that you don't have to worry about absorbing this, because what happens to people who absorb it and who embody it, they go through a lot of despair and pain and illness. So make sure you're not going to be doing that. And whatever it takes, make sure you're going to be able to protect yourself. You don't want to get stabbed in the back or even worse, shot in the back. So know how to protect yourself and be conscious of that without being paranoid. That's the best advice I could give you.
Beautiful. Thank you for that wisdom. That was really smart.
Thanks, man. I really hope that we'll be in touch and keep us updated about what you're doing, and we'll help you promote it.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
You.
Shine light on that stuff.
I definitely will. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. You're brave. Go for it, man.
Oh, thanks. You guys are doing a lot of great work. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, now we have Keith from Minneapolis. Hi, Keith.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Well, I appreciate you guys and your show, and I wanted to make a comment here that I've been researching and kind of cracking the cosmic egg for a couple decades, and recently Jordan started to discuss the masculine, and this is awesome. I've been trying to bridge that gap in my own being as well for a while, the divine child and the mature masculine. And I just wanted to also say that there are tools out there for men as well, not just books, but there's a movement of archetypal psychotherapy. And this is kind of a sort of an unconventional psychology approach. I think Krishnamurti once said, being well adjusted in a dysfunctional society is no measure of one's health.
Yeah, that's a great quote, yep.
It is, isn't it? And I think that conventional psychotherapy is really trying to get us to be well adjusted in this society, which is very dysfunctional.
You're right,
So how to find a therapist that's working in Jungian stuff. The King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, that's a huge book for me. Also, Iron John was good. Authors James Hillman, Robert Johnson, excellent. But somewhere in your city or your state or near you, there's a psychotherapist that is probably working in this. And I can't tell the listeners how to find that person, but for me to stumble upon one was huge. Like, I'm from a family of conventional therapy, and it was not cutting it, because as a young age, I knew there was much more going on.
Yeah.
And so I sat down with this archetypal psychotherapist in the very first session, and I said, well, you got to tell me what you think about these subjects. Do you think the earth is a living being? Do you think, I just kind of laid that out, and this person was like, yes. And I was just stunned, like, here's another human being that is dealing with this level of reality. And I just wanted to encourage everyone out there, if they're having that trouble, the books are amazing, but there's also men and women psychotherapists out there to help as well in that.
Awesome.
That's so brilliant. And, it really comes down to, guys, it's really important to ask for help right now. And this goes across the board, but mainly, especially for men, that asking for help does not mean you're weak. It's the opposite. It means that you're strong. You're strong and you're conscious that, I can't do this by myself. No one can. No one can.
Yeah, and I think it does. It takes work. It's like anything where you open that dark closet of any psychological past. Like, you have to do some work for it. You have to do some tasks that are related to your particular story. And I think that's what the psychotherapist really helped me with. So,
absolutely.
I wanted to say that. And again, Jordan, I'm very impressed that you're bridging all these subjects, because they're so vast. And I have run into a lot of people that kind of pick only one. Like, I only study UFOs, or I only study, Bigfoot, or outer body experiences. But to bridge them all, I appreciate all your all's work on that. That is just fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the broader the better.
Now, I'll end with a short question, because I totally agree, Dr. Wood, about your theories.
I'm not a doctor.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Just a master. That's all.
Okay.
No, Thank you, though. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'm listening.
Yeah, I was going to say, localism is the key right now for us to create a new platform. But ultimately, aren't we all thinking that this is a temporary move, because we want to retake a collective and turn a glorious world into a giant collective thing that can provide for all people what localism idea is? And I think I know some people that have kind of retreated into localism in such an aggressive way, like fuck the world. Oh, pardon my language.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, just screw everybody, I'm off, and it's
Yeah.
So anyway, your thoughts on that, I'd appreciate.
Well, if going back to that ancient Hermetic wisdom, it's the law of correspondence, as above, so below. So if you focus yourself on localism, you are already helping manifest national changes right there. If you're taking your money and your energy away from those multinational corporations and putting it into your community and focusing on just your community, you don't even have to worry about the nation state things. That's going to change on a grand level simply because you're focusing on bettering yourself and what's around you. So, if you focus on getting that 0-point energy device somehow, people want disclosure of free energy on a national level, but simply if you hook up one to your home and focus on doing it yourself, that's going to change the people around your community. They're going to be like, oh my God, this person has a home that's off-grid right next to me, and then that'll automatically simply sweep the nation. Or if you just, buy local farming food and take your money and your energy out of that grand thing, it's going to change automatically right there. So I think the localism, the localism idea, that's crucial. That was amazing.
And that does take action. Yeah, you're right. And that does take action as opposed to just like drive through a Burger King or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
or even better, make your own local fast food chain with organic local food. So here's the deal.
Yeah.
As an anthropologist, I'm conscious of all these different historical factors we can look at, and if I sat here right now and I asked myself, is there any point in time in history that there was something similar for us to look at, I'm going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now we have a collective consciousness that's never existed before. And that doesn't go away. And yes, I agree that isolationism is not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Localism, that's different. That's creating allied groups that are extremely powerful, and although it takes a lot of time and effort, they last. They last, and they last longer than other systems. There's plenty of historical proof for that, including local currency. So let's say that the dollar drops, which it will, and we watch China say we want our debt back, and a lot more will happen. It's that huge currency-based system, which is so unstable and huge, will come crashing down. What's going to be left? It's the local currencies that have been implemented in places like California and Wisconsin. Wisconsin was one of the first. Madison, Wisconsin has the Madison dollar. These places are going to be fine because they knew that local currency was going to be stable. We have to have layers happening here. And when you see people all taking action, and you take a little drive across the United States as the face of the U.S. is changing and becoming more localized, then you see people willing to open their arms to new folks who come in, visitors and travelers coming through, and you see the power and the health of the local community, then it's undeniable that it will change the face of our nation state. It will change the face of the globe. The African folks already know how this works, and they already are doing all of this. They've been doing it for ages. So it's just really one of those things that the collective mind isn't going away. And neither will all the travel that's going to continue to occur. In fact, I feel like if people are like, all right, well, where my home is, and it could change every month, where my home is, I'm going to put a lot of effort and spend my money locally. Then that means that everywhere they go, there's always going to be a really powerful local system in place. And what happened before with the creation of these nation states and these states and such, you ended up watching all these small towns disintegrate. You can go to these little small towns all over the place. All the local downtown is dead. None of the little towns have any new businesses coming through. There's always these big corporations that come through. A good example, there's a little town in Texas called Childress, Texas. And I drove through the downtown area, and there was literally zero people, no shops, nothing. The only place there were people, Walmart, and that was it. And nobody talked to each other there. They didn't have any town events anymore. It died. Walmart came, and then the whole town died. So here we have an example of if that town really wants to stay alive, they're eventually going to have to refocus themselves on each other again, and not go into their homes, plug into the TV, and then forget about each other. I think Philo Farnsworth invented the television, and he knew what it was. He knew it was a learning tool. He invented it for his fifth-grade teacher, who he really cared about, and she helped him a lot. And he invented it, and he said to her, this is going to be the greatest learning tool ever made. And he knew it. And, in fact, it is. And when we plug into the TV, we end up learning exactly what the corporate world wants us to learn, what the CIA wants us to learn. The CIA is responsible for thousands of movies that are put out all the time, constantly trying to get us used to disclosure, and among other things, and violence. Holy cow. When I was a kid, PG-13 was like a really big deal, and that was Jurassic Park.
Oh, my gosh, I know.
And Jurassic Park would be PG now.
Just like when the guy used to get shot and like put his hand over his chest and fall to the ground, like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah, it's
nope,
like
his head is blown off now and his guts are splattered, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, now PG-13 is basically what rated R was when I was a kid, or worse. And rated R is like, holy cow.
Yeah.
But that's really important. Screen time is key, everybody. It keeps us from being being involved in our local allied groups. So I agree. Isolationism is actually the problem. It's actually people. The reason why my neighbors and stuff, they don't come over and stuff, because they're on their TV. That's isolationism. They're afraid. They're just afraid. They don't like people anymore. Nobody has any social skills anymore. You're not taught that in school anymore. You're not taught how to compassionately communicate or to problem solve, or even better, meet big challenges as a group, or deal with group dynamics. You have to go to college for that stuff and pay and then go into debt. I think it's just one of these really beautiful things that with the ability to travel better, which will happen, we're going to see the global consciousness come together, and we will have a global scale event of peace and awakening, where we will be able to go down to the local level and see local healthy communities. Because really, the human race is made up of individual people. It's just like a cellular body. Just like all the cells in your body function and work at the local level to make the whole body work, that is how nature works. So Jordan's right, as above, so below, but it's going to be travel, the ability to travel better and faster, that will keep us globally connected and won't isolate us. And when folks say F the world, that's worthlessness. That's worthlessness coming up. It's also their despair over what they think as the worthlessness of humanity. It's the worst propaganda that I can tell you is out there. When people say humans are horrible, I hate humans. That is the very, very worst mindset. It needs to be the opposite. I love humans so much. I really love the earth. I really want us all to get real and to help each other. We need to do this now, guys. We can't do it tomorrow. We need to do it today. And so personal initiative. Personal initiative makes the world go around.
Well, that makes a ton of sense. I appreciate your comments on that. Absolutely. Community-based is where we got to start. And, that's I appreciate it. Thank you both very much.
No problem. Thanks so
You're
much
welcome.
for your comments and what you shared. I just love the fact that you're helping more people open up, especially men, to the idea that there's going to be great therapists out there to help, and that's so true. That's absolutely true. Look, keep looking. Don't give up, and if somebody doesn't work for you, then find somebody else.
Absolutely.
Keep looking. Don't stop looking for help.
Yeah, and there's a great network. They're out there, and again, these are the things like that are under the radar, right? So you may have to look and find it, but anyway. Onward with all your great work, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and now we have Kevin. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great. So recently I've been coming across some information on chemtrails and EMFs and how they influence our energetic bodies. I was curious if either of you have came across effective ways to shield yourself against some of these, because I'm sure they have some pretty profound effects on us.
Totally.
Absolutely.
One physical way is just keep your body detoxified, because chemtrails is something we just, sometimes can't avoid. We can't help the planes from going right over our heads and spraying on us. So make sure you're drinking plenty of clean water. There's, great supplements out there you can use to detoxify your physical body, like chlorella is a green algae, very good at detoxifying heavy metals, and zeolites, another example of something that can detoxify you. So there's that. And also shielding the EMF waves, you can look into various orgone diffusers, essentially little pyramidal shapes built out of orgone, good to keep around your room. Make sure you're not sleeping next to or near your Wi-Fi emitter, or have a smart meter on your home. So there's a lot of little things you can do, today to begin shielding yourself from chemtrails and EMFs.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, and be willing to turn off your Wi-Fi emitter, when you go to bed. Keep your cell phone away from your bedroom. Start using headphones instead of putting the phone up against your head. Men right now are having really huge issues with sperm count across the board in the Western world, and that's partly the fault of GMOs, but it's also partly because men often carry their cell phones in their pockets. Don't do that anymore. Find a different way. Instead, carry a backpack around and stick it in there or something like that. So he mentioned chlorella, spirulina, green algae. Those are great foods that help detox the body and that are gentle. But also cilantro. Cilantro binds to heavy metals, and it's wonderful. I almost died of lead poisoning, and cilantro and bentonite clay every day with some activated charcoal once in a while, that saved my life. So very effective natural remedies out there to help you with all those things. And not to be afraid to have a day every week where you're away from all of that and just shut all the computers and the cell phones and the Wi-Fi off and the TV and actually get with the 3D. And spend some time in nature. Another way, too, to really help the body keep its ongoing changes naturally healthy, the cymatics are so important, go barefoot on the planet Earth. Barefoot on the Earth. The Earth is spilling out all these negative ion particles, which are wonderful for healing. So spend time barefoot on the planet, wherever, just as much as you can, every day if possible. If you're really, really sick, then take off as many clothes as you can and lay on the earth. The earth will heal you. It's incredible what grounding can do. There's a huge amount of evidence that this can seriously heal your body. Spend some time gazing at the sun. Meditate with the sun. In the morning or in the evening, not in the middle of the day. If you have some time in the middle of the day, then go underneath a tree. Green light therapy from basically chlorophyll from the light that comes through leaves has a natural healing effect. This stuff is all scientific. It's totally out there. You can look it up, and these things will really help you. So the effects of these things can be countered. It just means that you got to spend the time every day to make sure that you're with it. And really being conscious of the food, people, is key. Right now, one of the culprits hurting men the most, especially with the sperm count, which is really key, guys, because the testicles are a really important part of your immune system. And without it, you can end up with terrible cancer. So you really need to be conscious of what you're putting into your body that's going to hurt your body and your immune system. And corn, the GMO corn out there was purposefully put there on the market to drop Western men's sperm count and keep their immune systems in a terrible position, which is why I said your body doesn't want Doritos. So the corn, stay away from GMO corn. It has no nutritional value. I'm not kidding. If you actually compared the nutritional value of GMO corn to organic maize, it's totally astonishing how very little value it has for your body. So just really, really being conscious of that and filtering your water. So those are all the things I could list off right now immediately that would make a huge difference in your life and keep you from being toxic and protect you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
No problem.
Totally.
Thanks, Kevin. That was a great question.
Yeah, that was awesome.
All right, I'm looking at my Q&A board here, and I don't see any questions. So
Awesome.
Here we have a last chance for everyone. If you'd like to ask a question, press *2. and we'll be happy to answer. We've got like 5 more minutes, so I just want anything at all coming up for people to share. And here we have Helen once more. Hi, Helen.
Yeah, if there's anybody else, I'll
Oh, no, there's not. It's okay. Go ahead.
But I was wondering what Jordan has to say about the possibility of human extinction on the planet, physically, that is. Because there's an awful lot of comment about that on the internet, and if worse comes to worse on the planet with the climate, it could become uninhabitable for humans.
Yeah. I personally don't see that occurring. I think there is plenty of technology just waiting in the wings that we could literally transform our Earth with. And I don't think, the positive forces that are helping humanity, I don't think they will let that happen of an extinction-style event, whether it be nuclear. We've had numerous examples of literal ET races powering down nuclear sites and, basically helping humanity not kill itself. So I think there are so many forces at work to help humanity along, help humanity from failing, while at the very same time not helping so much to a point where we can't do it ourselves. So I think there's plenty of stuff, like I said, just waiting in the wings to come our way once we collectively, authorize that to happen. That's just going to transform this planet. So yeah, I'm not worried at all about humanity failing and becoming essentially extinct.
Yeah, I don't really think so either, but I think it could get, it could put us back to the Stone Age if all this technology doesn't come online.
It will, actually.
Localizing is going to be really important.
That's very important that you say, because this magnetic pole shift that's imminent with all these changes occurring, I've heard some people say that all of our old, explosive-based technologies literally won't work because it's going to reverse the polarities of what magnetic north and south are. So we really need to get these zero-point energies online to prepare our infrastructure for that magnetic pole shift. But at the same time, I think it's absolutely doable, and I almost think it's inevitable as long as we co-create the best timeline, the most positive timeline, and live positively without fear, without any, fear-porn reactions. I think it's absolutely possible.
Yay. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I know.
Too, but I hear an awful lot of the doom and gloom stuff.
I know, it's so sad, and you just have to kind of detach yourself from a lot of the doom and gloom stuff.
Yeah.
As much as you can, really.
Yeah.
Well, I want to point out that change is the one thing we can be guaranteed.
Change is the only constant.
And humans will continue to evolve. And eventually our solar system will end. And eventually the Earth will be gone. It does not mean that our consciousness will be gone. So while the human race may shift and change and evolve and look very, very different in the future, and we might not even be in the same kind of bodies at all, the future is something that, we've really been here all along. Our consciousness is from pure love. It's from source. It's from that oneness with all of the universe. Our material being may not stay the same, but an extinction event, that comes from that fear that things are going to be different, so much so that they're going to be unrecognizable. And I would say that we want to celebrate evolution. We want to celebrate change. It doesn't mean that we're going to kill ourselves off or destroy this planet before the sun does. So just having hope that as we move ahead, these technologies, as they come forth, they're very deeply wonderful and extraordinary. The ETs that are here to support us have continued to and continue to give us more and more new technology and inspire people to move ahead. I really don't see that we're going to end up destroying ourselves. I can't see that happening at all. I see, eventually the sun will blow up, because that's just sort of a fact. But, Nostradamus did say that by the year 8000, human beings would inhabit the stars. And I really like that idea, so I always kind of sit with that one whenever I wonder what's happening to humanity. So perhaps that can be something we can roll with. That's hopeful.
Yeah, well, thank you both. That was really good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Helen.
Thank you for your question.
All right, and then our last question here we have from Gig Harbor, Washington. Hi.
Hi, I'm Kaylin.
Hi, Kaylin.
You guys are both from Washington, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, great. I really appreciate the way you guys incorporate kind of everything going on with, the truth of like Pizzagate to spiritual energy and the ET factor, like kind of bring it all together. Like someone said that people focus on separate a lot, and someone like me is trying to put all the pieces together and being spiritual. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm trying to kind of visualize, if we don't have a financial system, like I live in a city. I live in Tacoma. It's a very urban area, and
Tacoma, Compton. I'll be going through there tomorrow, actually. That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe one day we'll get to meet each other.
Totally.
But I'm curious, this is a progressive area. They're all about like sustainability and kind of the effects of what we're doing in the city on our water and everything. Yeah. But I'm curious, like, if we didn't have a financial system, people wouldn't have to go to work per se. A lot of the jobs we have are not really like our heart, it's just we're doing it because we have to go to work, So if we didn't have to go, like, how would the city still kind of function, like, who's going to pave the roads or who's going to, make your coffee in the morning or, if you didn't have to go to work, there is people that are passionate about that, but a lot of us would rather do other things.
Well, rather than a societal system based on scarcity, we'd have a societal system based on creativity and abundance, which would be the polar opposite. So a big thing with a lot of these technologies are very real is that they would automate a lot of stuff. Money would cease to exist because we literally wouldn't need to pay for energy, and we could have 3D printers print all of our necessities. So you could go to the store and buy a hammer for literally 5 cents. Stuff would be immensely cheaper. We wouldn't have to pay for gas or electricity anymore. So the average work week would go from 40 hours down to 10, and that's only if a person would want to work. But what I think is going to occur is a lot of people are going to bring forth their creative talent, and they're going to, the whole connotation of work is going to change because it's not going to be something they have to do, but they want to do. So we're going to have a renaissance of people that are putting all of their energy and hours into exactly what they want to do. So whether that's painting or athletics or creating music or creating education, I don't even think we can almost mentally grasp what society is going to be like, in a few years down the road when it starts becoming this way. But I think society is just going to be completely different. But we won't have money. We won't need money because our economy will be completely transformed.
Yeah, Jordan, I agree with you. Automation's going to change a lot of things, dear. But we are trained not to be able to visualize what it's going to be like when these systems fail. We're trained to believe that chaos will ensue and, murdering gangs and all kinds of horrible stuff. And, can you think of about 10 movies right now and shows that make you think that? So we're constantly bombarded with propaganda that when these systems fail, it's going to just be utter chaos, and then they try to twist around the word anarchy and make it sound like violence, and then they have false flag set up groups up in Seattle smashing windows in every time there's a protest, and then those people are anarchists supposedly, and that's just a load of bull. The fact is that when crisis happens, the first thing people do is they say, who can help me? So ask yourself that right now. Who can help me? And then really ask yourself, how can I help them? And through those two questions ends up the beauty of a society like he's talking about, like Jordan's mentioning. It's creativity. If you're not sure how you can help, you're going to really learn very quickly how you can help when there's a crisis, because it's the people who are paying attention and they step in and they say, I'm not really sure exactly how to help, but I really want to help. Put me to work. And then we're also taught not to ask ourselves the other question, which is, what do I love? What do I love to do? Instead they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then they throw you in a box and then suddenly you're going to be a firefighter or whatever, and that's it. You instead of saying, what do I love, which can be lots of different things, and being able to do a lot of different things, those are the types of Renaissance people that you're going to be wanting to be around when the crisis happens. So consider those things for yourself. And then when the systems fail, which they are set up to do, you'll be prepared because you'll have your allied groups. You'll know where to get food, and you'll know where to get the things you need. You'll be able to offer value with your personal initiative and how you can help your local folks and moving forward. And I also encourage you to look at the power of local currency and see if that inspires you, because we need more and more people to start implementing local currency before our currency fails, which actually could be like this as soon as this fall. So start thinking about local currency and what that really looks like, how that might work. Look at the way it's been done. Look at the Wisconsin dollar. So, yeah, don't panic. Don't believe the propaganda, and keep trying to imagine what it's going to be like, and be positive about it, because it's actually going to be so much different and so much better. And don't ever underestimate the power of the individual who says, I love making coffee. I want to pave the road. I want to do that. I want to build that new house because I'm good at it and I like to do it, because I love to do it. Don't underestimate the power of that. It might be that some of these folks are in jobs that they don't like, and that girl making coffee would rather do something else, but she's making the coffee because she has to. But don't underestimate the power of people who want to.
Very true.
You're going to find those niches filled by the people who do want to do those things. So don't be concerned about the lack. Look at instead how things will shift around to fulfill the desires and the beauty that's within each person and their ability to create.
Okay, thank you. I practice a lot of manifestation and such, and that's kind of where I was just trying to learn how to pinpoint that for even just my local area. So thank you for that. I get pretty good at manifesting, but I'm trying to do that on a little bigger scale for other people. So I just needed some kind of idea, and you gave it to me. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. No problem. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. So, Jordan, we do have one last question on our Q&A board. Dan Smith has asked, when do you think the truly natural treatments will be released to the general public?
My question to that is that you can find many of the natural treatments right at this very moment. The Gerson therapy that I mentioned, they have an institute just south of the Mexican border, I believe near San Diego, just south of San Diego. And there's a full institute associated with the Gerson therapy. I've seen people around here in Washington. There's various doctors who utilize the Gerson therapy in their treatments. So, you can, the ozonated therapies we mentioned, food-grade hydrogen peroxide, the chlorine dioxide, you can find those on the internet now. So, a lot of these natural therapies are very accessible. I don't know in regards to, for instance, the vibrational therapies, at least on a mass scale, those those devices you can just hook yourself up to, and it'll shoot frequencies, pathogen-killing frequencies to you. I don't necessarily know when those will come on mass scale, but, if we keep pushing for this evolution of consciousness at the exponential rate it's going, I don't see a mass breakthrough being too far off in the future, not only with the life-enhancing technologies, but the free energy and all that jazz. So, yeah, that's my answer to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget that turmeric, ginger, and CBD oil, those three things right now, there is a huge amount of scientific journal studies out there on PubMed showing that they are huge cancer fighters, folks.
Turmeric is great, absolutely.
Yeah, turmeric, and don't forget that when you take turmeric, you always need to take it with black pepper. It magnifies the accessibility of the compounds in turmeric. And also ginger extract. Ginger is extremely good at killing cancer cells all over the body. And then CBD oil is a non-psychoactive part of the oil from the marijuana plants, and also can be derived from hemp too. But CBD is extremely potent and kills cancer. It is a pain reliever, and it doesn't make you stoned or anything at all. And there's several companies out right now doing really great quality CBD oil that is available all over the United States. And those other two, though, turmeric and ginger, you can buy in stores. So
and I do want to say that there's companies out there that herbal supplement companies that put turmeric and ginger specifically in products because of their cancer-fighting abilities together. So a couple of those companies are like New Chapter Herbs. They have a product called Zyflamin, and there's also Gaia Herbs. They make turmeric supreme, or I forget the name of it. But these products are specifically designed to combat inflammation with a whole host of herbs like turmeric and ginger. And they, like you said, the PubMed studies, they've done PubMed studies with, I know the Zyflamin product specifically, and they showed it just wipe out like prostate cancer cells and melanoma cells and all that jazz. So, yeah, those are a couple options right there from those two companies.
So, yeah, I guess the answer is that a lot of it's already available.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to know where you're looking and what you're looking for. And if you have some kind of ailment or anything and you're not really sure, then find people who do. Email Jordan or me, and we can lead you to the right direction.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm so grateful that you were able to join us today. And, Jordan, where can folks send donations for your awesome work?
I would suggest them look at my Patreon account, because on my Patreon account you make monthly pledges, and it can be anywhere from just $1 up to whatever you feel comfortable supporting. But on there, not only does it help me out, but I put a lot of, I can offer content back to whoever's donating to me. So I write a lot of things on there, and I interact and post things. So there's Patreon, PayPal just for one-time donations, and then there's also under each one of my YouTube videos, and I have a link to the Amazon homepage. But I set it up so that Amazon homepage is associated with my affiliate program. So you can literally buy whatever you normally buy on Amazon with zero extra cost, but just a small fraction of that helps support me. So that's another
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a super easy way. I invite anybody to do that one because it costs literally nothing, no extra work. You just use that link, and you can buy whatever you normally do through Amazon with that link, and it still helps me. So any of those ways.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then your Gmail for PayPal.
jordan.sather@gmail.com. And not only is that for PayPal, but if anybody listening to this has questions or wants to get in contact with me as well, use that email, jordan.sather@gmail.com. Great.
Nice and easy. And
everybody,
I'm also a great resource. I do medical intuitive work. I am a seer. I do remote viewing. I can help you with any sort of spiritual, emotional, physical issues, and we can really unwrap that stuff. My sessions are an hour to 90 minutes long, and they are very in-depth. In fact, most people don't need to come back for a session, but maybe once every 3 to 6 months. So investing in a session like that can actually really help you move forward. If you need work around your personal purpose, if you're having any kind of health issues that you'd like more knowledge and wisdom about, so much can be done in a session. So I am also personally a resource available to you, and I really love working one-on-one with folks. I also have classes available on my website, seerandscientist.com. If you want to learn more about using your three minds, there's a really great workshop instantly available to you right up there. And then soon I'm going to be doing Healing the Masculine. We're going to be doing some workshops around that. So if you're a man or someone who works with men and you'd like some more resources around healing the masculine, then I think that would be a really great thing to get involved in. Next month, folks, I'm doing 2 teleconferences. One is going to be about false light constructs and how all of that looks. So if you want to know really what the matrix is made of and how it works and how to avoid it, that would be a good one. And then we're also going to talk about beautiful white light and light in general and all these light wavelengths and how you can use them to help you move forward consciously and physically. So a lot of really great stuff happening. Thank you, Jordan. You're amazing, and I'm so impressed by you. I bow to your knowledge and wisdom and your light masculine energy. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I learned a bunch from you as well, and I mean, I can't wait to see. I'm only 26, so I can't wait to see how life progresses from here, learning so much from people like you and everybody that calls in with their awesome questions and their experiences. I mean, we all have our own unique experiences that we can each learn from, so never discount someone else's experience and their knowledge, you know.
Absolutely. And we've only just started, really, haven't we, Jordan? So
Absolutely.
I think we're going to try to do something like this quarterly, folks. Jordan and I are interested in continuing these conversations. So if you'd like to join us, just keep an eye on Facebook and other places, and we'll keep talking. We'll keep having more New Earth conversations. Great. Thanks so much, Jordan, and everyone. Have a great day. I just really appreciate you being here.
Thank you all.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.